All right, guerrilla video time. So, done with the underpainting and the drawing. Ready to go start working with the color. So, this is why I want you guys to work with your, there you go, work with your color scales. So I'm looking at my flower, and where do my colors lie? Well, you know, you've got this color. That's pretty much, it's kind of a brownish version of this red-orange. That's pretty close, like around there, right? So I know that I'm going to need to mix a little of the cadmium red, maybe a little magenta to get this color. So I've skipped, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix yellow and magenta just because I know I can get a color that's like that and it's faster for you guys. What would you call the inside? You guys, what do you call that?
Like a yellow orange?
Yeah, like it's in between like these two probably. So I want a yellow, just a little bit of orange, right? And that's pretty much most of the colors. It's basically, you know, you have slightly darker versions of that kind of orange magenta, lighter versions, and you have this yellow. So I think I'm ready to go with that. All right, I'm just gonna put it down. Now looking at this one, what do I have? I have these leaves, you know, are around the viridian range, probably a little darker. Maybe I'll add some blue to them, but for now I'll just start in that arena. So I know how to mix that. It's like I'm mixing a little bit of the viridian with maybe a little bit of blue to get that. Okay, so I've got my viridian out here. And the flower here is definitely closer to, you know, violet and magenta. It's like this color right about here, kind of in between. So I need to make sure I've got, you know, again, some magenta, and it's kind of pale. When I was drawing it earlier, I couldn't really see the inside, which is also kind of an orange, but I'm not going to worry about that. So I kind of have an idea now that I've looked at my flowers, I've compared them to the color spectrum here, and now I can make decisions about what I needed. So I put out some yellow, some magenta, some viridian. I also put out white, which is really important because sometimes you need to lighten the colors up compared to the way they come out of the tube, like you guys did down here. This is called tinting, right? When you're adding white. So the first thing I will do, let's try it. Now the paint might still be a little wet and I might pick up some brown, but let's see what happens. We'll experiment. So I'm going to take a little, first I'm going to start with, I'm trying to mix, I'm going to mix the yellow with the magenta. And I get this kind of color, which is not bad. Get the camera in there. Check out my, I don't want to say my badass, but so there. So I'm like, wow, that's like pretty close. Okay. Now I want to make sure I've got the flower the right way. But so I'm going to go in and do. It's going to be kind of like this color. Right. Now, because the background is still a little bit wet, you want to put the paint on a little bit thicker because it's going to pick up some of the brown because that stuff's still a little bit wet. And remember Manet. It's like I'm just going to put this stuff down quick. That needs a little bit more magenta. I'm mixing both on the palette knife, on the palette paper, and here. I'm mixing quickly again. I'm just adding. This is out of the tube. All right. I'm not adding any liquid. I'm not adding any of this stuff. I'm just doing it right out of the tube. Okay, maybe a little more down here. Like the darker areas are where the magenta would go, like where it's much more magenta. Like in here. There, I'll look at that. Isn't that nice? And here. And here. And here. And I'm just getting this in really quick. You know, don't worry about the detail, like I said before. You can always do more later. That doesn't look too shabby. Now, those are the darker parts. There where it gets in the middle, you know, it's a little more of the kind of orangey stuff. Remember that the yellow is kind of weak and transparent. here. Okay. Not bad. We're getting there. Now I'm looking at this, and this is still a little yellower. I would probably want to get a little bit more magenta in there, even more than that. So. But you can see I'm not really worried about all the detail. You know, I'm just blocking the colors out. And if it's really loose like this, that's cool. Okay. Now now I want to clean the brush because that inside part where it really is a pale yellow. Now I'm going to take the yellow, which I didn't have enough of to begin with, and I'm going to add a little white to it, you know, to make it lighter. Because as light as yellow is here, I need it to lighten up even more down here. So I put out a little more yellow. I'm going to mix it with the white. It's still kind of orangey, but I just want it to be lighter, you know, more white. So compare, right? Okay, it's yellow, but it's lighter than this. That's a pure saturated yellow. That's not the same color. It's less saturated. It's got some white in it. So now I'll just go. These are the inner parts. These are the parts actually that had the cool, you know, where I scraped off some stuff, so it would go like that. Okay, I don't know. It's hard to see, and when I put this up online, maybe it'll be clearer. Yeah, thanks for getting close. This is a trick to doing with these kind of bigger brushes, how to do line stuff. So I put the paint all over the brush. I hold it here at the end, and I kind of gently rotate it. See, I'm turning my fingers like that to keep it a straight line. More paint. Now it needs to be whiter, it needs to be yellower. I'm going to steal from up here. Yeah, there we go. Now, I still am looking at it going, yeah, that's like a little bit yellow, but I can come in and fix that eventually. But I'm getting the basic colors in. And I know that there's just a little bit of green down on the inside, like that. Isn't that nice? And I'm just mixing the paint here and then just blending it in here, 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 boom. Like that. And that's what you do. And again, there's still more work to do, and I'm doing this pretty quickly. But I'm getting the basic colors in. And if you guys can get that far, see how loose it is? I'm not trying to get crazy, you know, photorealistic. Trompe-l'oeil is the term, actually, which is French. It means to trick the eye into thinking that you're looking at something that is not a painting, that's something real. That doesn't happen. Another trick I was showing Daniel just a minute ago is when you're doing some of these things, what you really want to do is like drag the brush like sideways, like I showed you here, when you're painting this way, not this way, or this way, not this way. That just kind of drag the brush down, like that. Just drag the brush along, and you can get nice little lines. Right now, everything's still pretty wet. So I'm doing a lot of, this is what's called wet into wet. So you see how I just fixed that? Like I just painted over this and tapered it down so it's a point. Do the same thing here, right? Once the paint's dry then, and you can go back in over this again when you guys come back on Monday and these things are all dry, okay? That's that flower. So again, it's not perfect, but I realized these are the basic colors I need to use because I'm using this as a tool to help me make decisions about, I want it to be that color. How do I make that color? Well, I use a mixture of red and magenta. How do I make this color? You know, I'm using a mixture of yellow and green for this inner part. So that's how you do that part. Now I'm gonna do the magenta again for our little friends here because they're so pretty. What's the time?
12:45. 12:46.
Okay, I gotta stop fast. So I'm gonna do this very guerrilla style. So there's more magenta. Now the magenta is going to go where it's dark, and this is how, I'm not even looking at the flower now because I've made my color decisions. So where it was really dark, I'm just going to go in with this pure magenta, like that. And then for the other parts, I'm going to add a little bit of white to it because, again, the magenta out of the tube it's a little too purple, so I'm going to add a little bit of yellow in. Why am I doing that? Because yellow, if it's a little too purple, the way to change that is you use the complement. So in my opinion, it's a little too purple. So I'll use the yellow mixed in with that, see, to warm that up a little bit. So that's why it's really important to do these color scales. Still needs a little more red. Andres, can you hand me the red? I tried, the complements helped, but frankly, it's less about that than it is about the, that helps, but a red will fix it faster. So I'm looking at this going, you know, that's really not quite it. I want a little more red that I can mix in if I need to. So I'm adding a little more red. Got it, like so. I'm going to add a little red in there, see how that works. So I'm mixing the red with the magenta. Now it's a little better. A little more white. Uh-huh. Zoom in.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, got it? Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. I keep forgetting you can see. So. And I know that there was I know that inside there's a little bit of this stuff. That little interior part, so I'm just adding that in. But again, it's oops, too much. Okay, so, that's too much. Knock it down. Okay, put it back a little bit. Get that orangey color back. That's better. Right. Now I'm going to completely clean the brush before I do the green. And I'm just going to do that Viridian pretty much out of the tube. Remember when I did the thing with the scrapey knifey thing? So I'm gonna just take a little bit of white because this was this real light part up here. So now just boom. When I did the drawing, that was there. When I did it before, this part was a little bit lighter. Not really that light, but I'll just leave it alone for now. This part was lighter on the leaf because it was catching the light from the fluorescent lights in a different way. Go back in. Stuff. And when I'm done with these leaves, I'll stop and give you guys time to work on yours. Is that reasonably clear? Like, please, like, if you're like, wait, what the hell is he doing? You know, if you have any questions, ask them now. No? Are you afraid to go on YouTube, have your voice be heard? And you see what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that vein alone. And on Monday, I'm going to show you how to glaze to make it look really cool. But we're not going to do that today. Today we're just doing the basic roughed out painting. And I'm just going to finish this one, and then I'm going to leave it there, okay? And then that gives you guys not quite an hour, but I did this pretty quick. And again, I want you to do the same. Photograph your flower. We'll come back on Monday and work on them some more. I'll show you how to glaze. If you can rough it out and see how loose this is, but it still basically has kind of the general color. Now that I'm looking at it, I'd be happier if there was more red. But what I can do at this point, I could just keep working on this all day, but frankly, we don't have time. But some of these things are like a little, yeah, they're like a little redder. Like the parts that are catching the light more. And I'm happier with that. Okay. Then stop. And as long as, if you're this close, you're in great shape. Okay, there we go. There's that guy, right? This guy. So we're in the ballpark. Then put them away, let them dry. We'll come back on Monday. Work from your photograph. I would prefer that you still have the same flower, but you can't control that. If the flower dies, the flower dies. But if you can still use the same one, fine. If not, I'll let you guys use the camera because it's the best case scenario. So work on this for the rest of the class today, and then we'll come back on Monday and finish it.